Hi, my name is Juanita Sharperson, and I wrote a poem for Dr. Martin Luther King about 40 years ago. This is the poem that I wrote. But for over 30 years, I wrote poetry for the military command, military officers, while working for the Department of Defense. My friends all called me the Poem Lady. But one of the officers came through one day, one of the naval officers, and he introduced me to a general, and he called me Poet Laureate. I did not have the official title, but I did official duty for more than 30 years with pride, with self-fulfillment. You see, I started work for the government in 1968 during the Civil Rights era. That was the year that Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. Robert Kennedy was assassinated. John Carlos and Tommie Smith stood on the podium at the Olympics and protested against the unjust treatments of African Americans in the United States of America. That was also the year of the resistance of the Vietnam War. 1968 was a turbulent year. My poem that I wrote speaks loud to today's affair of human rights, civil rights. We're still advocating for voting rights. When I began writing this poem for Dr. Martin Luther King, you see, I had a difficult time just trying to decide on the exact title, and I felt kind of guilty. And I said, no, that should not be the case. For Dr. Martin Luther King made an enormous amount of contributions. And why was I wrestling over a mere title? And as I was writing, I said, Dr. Martin Luther King was a leader. And I said, yeah, but he was also a preacher. And then I put him just a little higher. I said, Dr. Martin Luther King was a king. And this is how I came up with my title, The Teachings of a King. There's a list of great men, and I've read about them all. But there's one that lived in my lifetime, King Martin, the memories I still recall. Equality and justice is what he stood for. Just let my brothers and sisters through those locked, awaiting doors. By the grace of God, Martin was made to bestow his teachings in our troubling days. A man filled with great spiritual wealth. He had a lot to give when injustice was felt. Matt, Mark, Luke, and John, they were messengers just like he, but I believe our Martin could have preached and delivered a sermon from the hilltops of Galilee. Now I wonder what Martin would say about the trouble in the world today. You've been emancipated now, and it's time for you to pray. For you unbelievers, I've shown you in a non-violent way. The past is my conviction. Many bills were slated in my day. I've been watching progress, and they vetoed some civil rights bills, tried to turn them back. My followers have a strong will. You have many great leaders now, Jesse and the like, and with the doctrine that I taught them, they're willing and able to fight. Believe in his teachings, for he had that spirit of love, kind to both friends and enemies. His light still shines from above. He had that manner of love by not behaving unbecomingly to be used as an example for all when fighting non-violently. He had that endurance of love. You see, when the battle seemed too long, he'll just gather his faithful marchers and sing those renowned, joyful songs. He had that temper of love by using it quite calmly, believing in the patience of love to defend his moralities. His love has endured a lot of things from state to state, for he has solved a lot of our problems, and he did not complain. Now, I just wonder what Martin would say about the trouble in the world today. He'll be faced with some of the same old tired issues, just like I heard today. He's still advocating for voting rights. You see, Dr. Martin Luther King, your dreams are floating in the air. You see the Senate is debating on filibusters. I do declare, when would it ever end? The iniquities and injustice are out there again. But thanks to you, Martin. See, with your teachings, you've really paved the way for us all. But we're still using your doctrine, nonviolence, fighting for equality for all. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin.